Good morning, everyone, and welcome one more day to this your computer security channel. A few days ago, I asked you on the community tab if you would be interested in watching a video in which I show you how to capture a person's IP just by accessing a link. Seeing the result of that poll, I can't refuse to make this video, so if you voted for this option in the poll or just want to learn how it's done, this is your video. It is true that we cannot get the location 100%, but we can get the IP, and with the IP we can get the approximate location of that person. And I know that we can find out the IP of a person just by sending a link. In fact, it is not even necessary that this person accesses the link. And WhatsApp will help us in this. Here you may say, how is WhatsApp going to help you do something like this? I know it sounds practically impossible, but the truth is that yes, because the trick is in the preview of the WhatsApp links. When you send a link to a person, they have a previewer, WhatsApp itself, which is who shows you the title, the image of the web page, or a small description. So of course, if you are a little bit clever, you can think of something that is quite logical. What if I make a very simple web page in which the title of the page or the description is the IP of the person who is accessing it? In case you don't know, having a web page have your IP is the most common and simplest thing in the world, since most web programming languages allow you to do it. So that's it, isn't it? When I send the link to a person, their own WhatsApp will preview the title to write it to them in the conversation, and it's going to show your IP. That's it, right? Easy. And the truth is that before making this video, I did some tests to see if it really worked or not. And what do you think? Does it work or does not work? Well, friends, I'm sorry to tell you that since very little time ago, like a couple of weeks, they have updated WhatsApp so that this no longer works. Until very recently, the preview of the link was done by the person who received it. But since the last update, this preview is done by the person who sends the link. Therefore, if we send the link of a web page in which the title is the IP of the person who accesses it, what we will be doing is sending the preview but with our IP. So we are doing the opposite of what we originally intended. We are sending our IP instead of finding out from that person. But don't despair, folks, because there's still a good chunk of video left. And this is because after thinking about it for a while, a couple of times, I said to myself, okay, if that person doesn't access the link, I can't know it. But what if the person only accessed the link? Would that be enough for me to have his IP? Well, my friends, this time, yes. After doing some very simple Provzilla, I have found a way to do this. And that's why we are here today. In fact, doing a little research on the internet, I have realized that these pages are more common than I thought. These sites are usually called IP loggers because they basically do just that. You send a link to a person and you automatically receive that person's IP. But how is this possible? I just don't understand it. That's why I have made a very simple test so that you can understand the procedure. So, let's see it. Well, basically what I have done is to create a web page called borjagaristeo.com/aprende-php. If we access this URL, this link, we will see that it is just a normal web page and period in which appears a video of me and little else. The web page seems to be harmless, right? But in reality, this web page is an IP logger, although it doesn't look like it. If you add the parameter key to this URL here, that is a K, you put a parameter here and you know how it is. For example, test or test video. For example, you take this URL and you send it to someone. Once this person accesses it, he will not see anything different. They will see the web page, they will see the video, and they will say, well, that's fine. A YouTube channel, that's all, right? What happens is that there is a little difference here, and that is that if once this person has accessed the URL, you go to the same URL, but without accessing it like this, you simply copy, paste, and add the following, and show. You will see how here, the IP of that person has been captured. So the only thing you have to do is to send this URL to that person. Here you can change the name you want in the parameter, and then you can add show. In this way, you can capture the IP of the person who has accessed that link. A detail that must be taken into account is that if you access later to the same link with the same URL without putting the parameter show, you will step on the IP of that person. Therefore, once that person has accessed, you do not re-enter. Access putting and show. In this way, you can see the IP. Well, this is how it works. The truth is that the code that is behind that page is quite simple. In fact, that code is quite similar to that used by websites to track users. Imagine you have an online store or a blog or whatever, and you want to know if a particular person has accessed or not has accessed your website. Then sending a link like this, you can know if that person has accessed or not has accessed, because if you have accessed, you can see your IP, and if not, well not. So now it's time to show you how to do this, as YouTube may be a little bit against me teaching how to capture the IP of the person. Without further ado, I'm not going to show you this. What I'm going to show you is, imagining that we have an online store or a blog or whatever, how to know if a person has accessed and we can see their IP. So let's analyze the code of the page that I just showed you. Well, as you can see, here is the code that is behind that page that I showed you before. This code is programmed in PHP, which is a language that is very widely used and is not difficult to learn at all. In fact, PHP is quite simple, but this code is even simpler. Let's go through line by line how this script works, so that you learn how to do it, so that it is not just a copy and paste and that's it. In the first line, what we have is an assignment. We indicate to the web page, which is going to be the file in which the IP of that person is saved, since we are not going to get involved in setting up a database, far from it. In case you do not know it, this type of data can be saved normally in files with JSON format. For that reason, we say that the file with the IPs will be ip.json. Next, what we are going to do is with the function fileGetContents, is to say to it, hey, the content of this file, please put it to me inside a variable that is called IPs, so that all the content that was inside the file is going to be dumped inside the variable IPs. In the case that it is the first IP that we try to capture, this file will be empty. In the next line, what we do is to assign the variable content. We tell it that it will contain the IPs that were in the file, but in array format. This is necessary to be able to access the information, since by default the information that is inside a JSON file is not easily extractable. That's why we need to make a JSON decode to extract this information. So after these 3 lines, what we have is that the IPs that we have captured will be inside the content variable. Then, here we have an if-else condition that is in charge of making the difference between when we pass the parameter show for the URL or when we don't pass it. Let's start with what happens when we don't send this show parameter, but pass the URL without anything else. Basically, what we are doing is taking through PHP the IP of that person with the function server remote add. What we are going to do is to say, hey, save me this information inside the file, and I want that the word by which we can look for later this IP is the one that is in the parameter get. Then we take care of saving its IP that we got it here inside the file, and that's it. In this way, these 2 lines are the ones that are in charge of saving it inside the file. Later, when we pass the parameter show to the web page, what it is going to do is the following. It is going to go to the file content, as we have said before, ip.json, and it is going to look for that key that we told it to save it, so that if we passed a URL to a person where the K was test, for example, then its IP would have been saved inside the index test. So when we do get key content, it says, hey, look for the one that is test in the content of the IPs. And that's how we get to paint it. As you can see, this way you can know if a person has accessed or not accessed the URL that you have sent him. If you have their IP, it means that they have accessed it, and if not, then no. And this is the end of today's video. I hope you have learned a little more about computer security, and if you want to continue learning here, I leave my channel for you to subscribe. And if you want to see another video of mine just as interesting or more, here I leave a video of mine for you to continue learning. See you in the next video. Bye.